Now is the opportunity to raise any concerns you have about definitions. Janine Selby has been the chapter leader of the definitions. Janine, do you have anything you want to say?
The definitions chapter, which pulls together definitions for all of the words and phrases that the other chapters rely on, it's evolved slightly since it last came to you in late January in two ways. At the January meeting, there was a request for a silent file definition, which is now included in phase 2, having liaised with Tront and received a definition from them. The other definition that was raised at that January meeting was the desire to ensure that the signs provisions provided for signs of all natures, and as I mentioned at that meeting, with the addition and amendment of a new sign definition in phase 2 that describes in a very full, broad way what a sign is, and that is supported by rules within the signs provisions and the general rules and procedures chapter around how high, how wide, what colour, etc. they can be. The other way that the chapter has evolved slightly is since the last meeting there have been half a dozen or so either amended or new definitions added in relation to the general rules and procedures chapter. I can tell you what they are if necessary, but that's pretty much as it is at the moment. In the additional resolutions in relation to this chapter, there are still effectively two further things to do before they go to the ministers, and that is to include, if I take a step back, the phase 2 definitions chapter contains 3 categories of definitions. 1 are new definitions required by these particular chapters. 2 are what are effectively new definitions, but they're actually an altered version of the phase 1 definition, which will be applicable to the phase 2 chapters only. And then in order to have the phase 1 definitions considered in relation to how they work or don't for the phase 2 chapters, we've also had to bring through or effectively repeat some of the phase 1 definitions on which the phase 2 chapters rely. So that latter category are just in the process of being identified, and they'll just be added in, and they'll be exactly the same as they occurred in the first phase. And finally, because a couple of the chapters are either in whole or part being notified just a little bit further down the track. In relation to the natural and cultural heritage chapter in particular, there are a couple of definitions that just need to be pulled out of this chapter at this time and notified at that later date.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. Andrew. Yeah.
On the silent files, the definition is showing as areas identified by Papati Perunanga. Now, there was some confusion around the maps when we had the consideration of the draft chapters in January. My understanding is that the intention was to roll over the silent files that are in the existing operative plan and not to increase the size of those files, which was there was some discrepancy between the operative plan and Naitahu proposal. The silent files, I can't see them on these maps here unless I'm looking in the wrong place. I just need to confirm that that change did in fact occur. So that the silent files in the proposed plan are in fact exactly the same as those in the operative plan.
Oh, that's one of the ones that needs to come out as a result.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we will speak to that, but in fact this is one of the definitions that point 3 on the resolutions refers to. That definition shouldn't actually be in the stage 2 chapters that are about to be notified because it relates to a chapter that hasn't come to you yet. You might recall the Natural and Cultural Heritage chapter follows in a month's time.
Are there any more questions regarding to this chapter definitions? If no, the term, are you happy to move? So Ali, are you happy second? Okay, term move. Ali second. All those in favor say aye. Against? Carry. Okay. Next one.